subconscious or unconscious beliefs that negatively impact our lives? And what beliefs do the subconscious and unconscious have that would be negative?
Fear-based beliefs, beliefs in your lack of worthiness, beliefs in your lack of ability, so on and so forth, beliefs that you're not loved, so on and so forth. Yes, of course. This is why we say it's so important to understand what those negative and fear-based beliefs that may be residing in your unconscious or subconscious mind are actually telling you. This is the whole idea of investigating what your beliefs are, to bring them into your conscious mind, into the light, so you have something to work with. So yes, there can be a large repository or a small repository or even one unconscious or subconscious negative belief that can be preventing you from being yourself and moving forward until you figure out what it is, until you ask yourself, what would I have to believe is true in order to be experiencing or feeling what I'm experiencing or feeling? Because if you understand that beliefs generate feelings, that there's no such thing as a feeling or an emotion or an experience without believing something to be true first, then you will understand that if you are having uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable behaviors, uncomfortable experiences that don't feel right, that don't feel in alignment with who you prefer to be, then you have to know by definition that those must be coming from a belief that you're unaware of. And therefore that means they're residing in your unconscious or subconscious mind. Find out what they are by asking that question. If I did move forward on my excitement, if I know what that is, what am I afraid might happen? That will usually reveal what the subconscious belief or unconscious belief is.
And how do you suggest we as humans overcome our bad cravings and addictions during the moments when they are triggered, when we know deep down inside that they really don't serve us?
Again, addiction is the product of a belief system that allows you to feel that you are disconnected from your power, disconnected from source. It's a feeling of emptiness, in a sense, that you try to fill with whatever it is you're addicted to, thinking that it will actually make you feel fulfilled, and there may be a temporary effect that makes it seem as if you're fulfilled. But again, it comes right back, because you cannot fill that kind of empty feeling, that kind of negative belief, with things in the physical reality. Or people will be addicted because they don't want to face those kinds of beliefs. They're afraid to look deep within themselves, and therefore they do things and put substances within their bodies, be it food or drugs or what have you, that numb the feeling so they don't have to pretend that it's there. They don't have to look at it. They can say, I can ignore this. It's not really there because I can make it go away with this substance or this behavior or that behavior. So it's either about trying to fill the empty hole you feel, or it's about trying to numb the feeling so you don't have to pay attention to it. But in both cases, it's simply an avoidance of trying to find out what that belief is that is creating the emptiness that makes it seem as if you're disconnected from source, disconnected from your self-empowerment. So again, deep investigation and a willingness to find out what that fear-based belief is and listen to what it's telling you will make it appear nonsensical, and then you have every resource you need to let it go and no longer find that the addiction has to be there, because now you're not trying to fill an empty hole or numb something that you're afraid to look at.
So would your advice be that when the person has that feeling and they're triggered to want whatever substance it is that they're addicted to, that they stay with the uncomfortable feeling and just explore it until...
Yes, absolutely, because they can then allow themselves to get at the root of it in terms of the belief system that's making them feel that way, and therefore they can gain their self-empowerment back, reconnect to source. Well, not that they've ever actually been disconnected, but allow themselves to let go of the experience of disconnection by using the uncomfortable feeling as a reason to explore. In other words, the uncomfortable feeling is a friend telling you, hey, you have a belief that is out of alignment with who you are. It's all right to sit within this feeling and explore why it's there, because you know that this uncomfortable feeling couldn't possibly exist unless it was being fed by a negative belief that's out of alignment with who you prefer to be. So use the uncomfortable feeling to direct you into a self-investigatory regimen that allows you, in that investigation, to find out what that belief is telling you, so you can realize how nonsensical it is and stop paying attention to it.
Well, it occurs to me that if an individual is going through that process and they reach that point where they're experiencing the call to suppress or to deal with an addiction, that the exploration may take the person deep into childhood trauma and things like that.
Yes, so what?
And sometimes when people are exploring that, they kind of get stuck in there where
All right, but again, the important thing is to act holographically. You have to remember all the other things, all the other tools we have given you about such things as thinking you're stuck. So when that feeling comes up, you deal with that feeling. When the feeling comes up of childhood trauma, you realize that that doesn't exist for you as an adult if you understand that you're a completely new person and that you're creating a new past. You have to remember all the tools and techniques when they come up, when those challenges come up, and apply the tools and techniques that are appropriate for that particular challenge. This is what it is to really evolve, is you have an array of tools available to you that we have shared with all of you and others have shared with all of you. And you must apply the proper tool at the proper moment with the proper challenge. You don't just assume, oh, I don't have any tool to deal with this now that that's come up. Now that I feel stuck, well, I guess I just don't have a tool to deal with that. You do have all the tools, and you must remember to apply them when a specific challenge comes up. Apply the specific tool that has been shared with you to deal with that specific challenge. You can't just let it go and go, oh, well, I don't have a way of dealing with this. You do.
I see.
All right.
Okay, so do signature vibrations evolve or change in any way? Or does each individual perspective of all that is have a unique and distinct energy to it that remains unchanging even through all experience? If signature vibrations don't change, what is it that does learn and evolve?
All right. Signature vibrations by definition don't change. That's how you know it's that particular reflection. But what does change are secondary vibrations that color it, that clothe it, that are representative of the learning, representative of the growing, representative of the change. Now that can become, to some degree, a marker or something similar once the lesson is learned to a signature vibration, but there is always a core signature that makes you, you, and there are secondary levels of vibrational frequencies that represent different experiences, different levels of knowledge, so on and so forth. They can become so close in vibration when you really own them to the signature vibration that they may be, in some sense, challenging to differentiate. But if your senses are sharp enough, the signature vibration is always recognizable as that individual identity, and the learning vibrations, the knowledge vibrations, the experiential vibrations that wrap themselves around it can always be differentiated from the true core signature vibration.
So, and this next question may incur some redundancy, but it says, right. Is the term signature vibration another way of saying the unique archetype of all that is that each of us is? Do we remain the same archetype, signature vibration, even in other experiences that we may choose to create for ourselves after transitioning from this lifetime, such as creating the illusion of reincarnation, choosing to be a non-physical guide, and choosing to explore other realms?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay. I remember, this is person saying, I remember the heavenly, beautiful place I was in before I was born, and after which I thought, this world is so primitive. Do all humans come from that place and most of us just forget?
Yes, everybody comes from that place. Now, yes, of course, there are differentiations even within the spirit realm. But that's our natural state. It's everyone's natural state. And therefore, everyone comes from that place and goes back to that place. Everyone goes home.
That's a good thing. Um, should we be planning on creating new kinds of schools for children in anticipation of the arrival of the hybrid children on Earth? And what kind of schools would we create? And what forms of learning would work best for both the hybrid children and the new generation of children being born?
All right, well, we have discussed this before, and there are a few major steps in rearranging your educational system that can be of great advantage not only to the human children, but to the hybrid children as well, if they even need to go to school. But the idea is to create environments, sanctuaries that are safe, that allow children to explore the consequences of the choices that they make in a safe way before they are actually experiencing the consequences of those choices, as you would say, out in the real world, so to speak. So they can learn what the consequences of choices are all about, what different vibrational frequencies are all about, how things are connected to one another, how one thing leads to another, and how reflections are guiding posts for them to understand how to choose what it is they truly prefer, teaching them, number two, that they are as powerful as they need to be to attract whatever they need in life without having to hurt themselves or anyone else in order to do so. So you teach them self-empowerment in that way. And the idea of allowing them to find their passion, find their excitement, and whatever lessons you deem that are important for them to learn to exist in physical reality, you adapt the lesson to their excitement instead of trying to stuff their excitement into the lesson and diminish it. Those principles will go far in creating new educational systems that will allow children to experience, in a sort of interactive way, environments that will challenge their imaginations, stretch their imaginations, and allow them to experience an understanding of the consequence of choices that they make, so that when they grow up, they become well-balanced adults who feel self-empowered and feel capable of following their passion and opening up their imagination and senses to receiving information synchronistically from their guides and anywhere that they need to in order to live fulfilled lives.
Okay. Do you have pets on your home ships and on Essassani like we do?
There are animals that may choose to be with us on the planet, and some will even sometimes choose to come with us on the ships, but they're not pets. They're making these choices independently to be with us. Again, much in the same way that the cats on your planet, they're not really pets. They're choosing to be with you because they're not really domesticated in the classical sense. They choose to be with you for their own purposes. Doesn't mean that they can't love you, they do. But again, they're more independently minded and make their choices more independently than many other pets, as you call them, on your planet. So the idea is that all the animals on our planet simply make the independent choice to either be with us or not, depending upon their themes of exploration or their feelings at the moment as to what works for everybody synchronistically. Because remember, we operate in pure synchronism, and that extends not only to the beings called the Sani beings, but also to the idea of any animal life or any other version of life on our planet.
And why did our oversoul remove the dinosaurs via asteroid from planet Earth and not allow them to evolve side by side with Sasquatch and eventually humans? Is there a planet that you know of that has a prehistoric-like ecosystem as seen in Jurassic Park?
The oversoul didn't choose, once again, to remove the dinosaurs, and of course it didn't remove them all, because many branches of the dinosaurs evolved into what you now experience as birds, which your scientists are now recognizing and calling avian dinosaurs. So they still are with you, many of them, but it's not about the oversoul choosing that in the sense, once again, as we explained before. Each oversoul has a definitive theme that extends into souls that have definitive themes that extend into higher minds, that have definitive themes that extend into personalities that have definitive themes. So the idea is simply, this is the definitive theme reality wherein most of the dinosaurs, as you say, went away so that humans could evolve, so that souls could experience that particular kind of evolution. And the idea is that's simply germane to this particular oversoul experience, Whereas, yes, there are other oversouls where the dinosaurs or other life forms, as you may have called them, past life forms, do still exist. And many variations therein, in between all of that. But this is just the theme of this particular oversoul. It's not like it actually had to make a conscious choice to have that happen. It's simply the way this oversoul happened to operate.
And do people need to be fully awakened to be able to live in New Earth where there is only love and harmony with each other? Can they still live in New Earth even if they don't 100% comprehend what you've talked about?
Of course. Many people understand these things instinctively without having heard of us at all. And they don't have to be what you would call fully awakened to start navigating in the direction of more positive representations of Earth. But it depends upon what you mean by fully awakened. People do have to have enough of an awakening to make the choices that navigate them in the direction of a more positive Earth. Shall we simply say they do have to have a little bit more of an optimistic attitude than a pessimistic one, if you want to oversimplify the concept, in order to arrive at more positive versions of Earth? But no, it's not necessary for them to have a full awakening and everyone be an ascended master in order to arrive in versions of Earth that are more positively constructed and oriented. But it's a beginning toward that idea.
Okay. To understand more about all that is there a difference between interactions between all that is and Essassani beings and all that is and human beings? How does human Earth people interact with all that is different from your interactions with all that is?
Well, yes, it is just a matter of a difference in perception and a difference in experiences because we can perceive more of all that is than humans have so far been willing to perceive. It's not that the fundamental differences exist. We are all the same in terms of our relation to all that is, but we're not all the same in terms of our awareness of the different aspects of what's available to us from all that is. So we have more perception of different things that are available to us and different experiences that we have than you have, simply because you haven't become aware of all the different availabilities that can come from all that is to allow you to experience your reality in a broader, more expanded way, while we have. So it's just a difference of experience, but not a fundamental difference of connection.
Okay. And I guess I'll wrap it up with a question about excitement leading to struggle. And
excitement does not lead to struggle.
Right. Well, this individual is asking, when I followed my highest excitement, I experienced some struggling conditions. When that happens, it's no longer my highest excitement because I'm not happy. When we encounter contradictions like this, when we're following our highest excitement, how should we resolve it, or how can we resolve it?
How many of you listening to this transmission have remembered what I'm about to say? Remember the formula and remember the tools that go with it. What happens when you're following excitement? One of the tools in the kit of excitement is the reflective mirror that brings your attention to something within you that might be out of alignment with your excitement, so you can become aware of it and let it go and bring that energy back into alignment with your excitement. Therefore, it's not about defining that when the challenge comes up, that you define it negatively as if something's wrong, as if that's not part of your excitement. The idea of becoming aware of a challenge, becoming aware of something that's out of alignment with your preference, is not a diminishment of your excitement. It's also an expression of your excitement to find beliefs within you that are not representative of your excitement, because if you didn't find them, if you didn't become aware of them, how could you change them and let them go? So finding something will only feel like a struggle if you give it a negative definition for being there. One of the tools of the kit of excitement is to be put into awareness that there may be beliefs within you that are not exciting to you, but finding it is part of your excitement. Don't diminish the ability to use it in a positive way by saying that something went wrong just because suddenly, when following your excitement, something came up that was a challenge you didn't expect. The only reason you're experiencing it as a struggle is because you defined it in a negative way instead of saying, oh, goody, I have now discovered something that is out of alignment with me so I can work with it and let it go. And that's part of the continuation of my excitement and my passion. That's what you need to remember about the formula and all the tools that go with it. So, thank you to those who did remember that and knew what I was about to say. And we encourage those that didn't necessarily remember that to please do so for your own benefit. Not that you have to, but I guarantee you things will go more smoothly if you do remember all the things that we shared with you about the formula and not just one little piece at a time.
Thank you, Bashar, from me and from all of us viewing this experience. And we really appreciate the information that you share with us.
It is our great passion and our great pleasure and our great gratitude and appreciation to do so, and that you have opened to us an invitation to interact with all of you that may lead us more and more every day in every way toward the idea of more blending into the family that we all are, expressed as the idea ultimately of open contact. So we thank you, Aveo. And now, please enjoy the remainder of the transmission to get into your relaxed and meditative state. Is being had when you receive energy messages from the higher mind that translate as the sensation of passion in your body. And by acting on that passion, because action is the language of physical reality, you are talking directly back to the higher mind, saying, all right, I heard you, and I will act on what you have given me. That is a direct conversation, and that's the most natural way that it can occur. However, number two, as we have often said, when you are speaking with us, you are actually speaking with your higher mind, using us as a reason to speak to your higher mind in a way that you're used to having conversations. So in that sense, you're speaking to your higher mind right now. And any other being that can perform the function of functioning as a mask for your higher mind can allow you to have a typical conversation with your higher mind in that same context. You can even, again, use us as an excuse to talk to your higher mind by saying things like, when you find yourself challenged, what would Bashar say? What would Jesus say? What would Buddha say? And you can, in your imagination, then have the conversation if you truly understand what kind of response such beings as myself and the others would give to you, then that can actually be a response coming from your higher mind, again, using us as a way of triggering the conversation that you can have with your higher mind, pretending that you're talking with us. Because we are happy to form and function as a representation of your own higher mind to make it easier for you to know that it's easy to connect, it's easy to have a conversation. But going back to the first idea, it's a much more natural way and a much more fluid way, and it keeps you moving through life to simply accept that the more natural conversation between you and your higher mind is one of receiving the information in an energy form that allows you to feel the passion that gets you to move forward and take an action in that direction.
And the level of the higher mind that you're describing, that you can have these conversations with, what it would be the frequency range of that consciousness level?
Above 333,000 cycles per second.
All the way up to?
Well, it depends. The higher mind can have quite a large range to it, depending upon what it needs to adjust its frequency to tap into information that the physical personality may need. It's not, however, unusual for the general range to be, and we understand that this appears in your reality as a kind of a multiple synchronistically, but it can go from about 333,000 cycles per second, normally, generally, with exceptions, up to about 666,000 cycles per second is usually all that's necessary. Beyond the 666,000 cycles per second, you're now getting into the range of the soul, which can go up to about 777 cycles per second, thousands, of course. And then the oversouls are usually above 777,000, maybe up to 999,000. And again, these are all convenient figures for you that relate to your physical reality as you understand how vibrations exist hierarchically to represent different levels and layers, and there can be different ways of looking at this. So don't get stuck on these numbers. We're giving you a generalization in the same way that you could say, well, where does the air end and where does space begin, or where does water begin and ice begin? There's some fluidity to these barriers and these gray zones, so to speak, as to where transitions are made. But I'm giving you a general understanding of these things that can serve you in the way that you need to be served for now.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Could you tell us some more information about counterparts? What are the most common and important reasons and purposes to meet counterparts in one's life? Is it to work on themes or to assist and support each other? Do we often fall in love with a counterpart and feel a sense of great familiarity when meeting them? And what specific emotions might we have when we meet them? Do you have any advice on how we can recognize counterparts? Are there specific traits?
In some senses, yes to all of it in general, because it can be any and all of those things. It doesn't have to be. As we have said, sometimes a counterpart can be someone who really pushes your buttons that you may not even really like, but they're serving the purpose of getting you to face certain things and helping you become more of who you are. Now, it doesn't take a counterpart to do that, but sometimes counterparts will come into your life to do those kinds of things. And the full range of emotions can be felt depending upon the theme of the counterpart and why you've attracted that particular counterpart into your life, what it is that it needs to remind you of as you explore yourself and become more of who you are. So it can really be any or all of those things. Just depends upon the circumstance and the theme that you're exploring.
Okay, thanks. This person is asking, how do I find my excitement? How can I help others find their excitement?
As we have said quite often, start small. Again, when we say follow your passion, follow your excitement, it's not a difficult thing to find at all. Asking the question today must obviously in some sense have been important to you, been part of your excitement to ask this question. So it's not hard to find that question. And therefore look around at the ordinary, as you say, typical things in your life that you're capable of acting on. Taking a walk, reading a book, eating a meal, talking to a friend, seeing a movie, what have you. Just look for the one that has even a little bit more excitement, attraction, curiosity to it, that you gravitate to for whatever reason, even if it's just the tiniest bit more attractiveness and excitement than any other choice that you're able to take an action on, and act on that one first. By continuing to do that, every time you come to a crossroads and say what to do next, just pick the thing, no matter what level it's on, that has more attractiveness, more excitement, more curiosity in it, that you're able to act on than any other thing, and then do that one next. So the idea is that if you keep doing that, you're always acting on your excitement. Excitement and passion doesn't mean you're jumping up and down or running around with your hair on fire. It can be a very simple, very peaceful process that gives you a continuation that can snowball into bigger and bigger things if you keep doing it from that level. But acting on your excitement and figuring out what your excitement is very simple if you keep it simple and don't think you have to start from some grand idea. Just everyday things can be representative of things that could excite you more than any other thing.